Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're launching ourselves into the really captivating world of gymnastics.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff.
From, ancient competitions all the way to the modern Olympics. It's this blend of just
Yeah.
incredible athleticism and, well, performance art.
It really is a unique combination.
So let's get into it. We've pulled together some fascinating facts and insights into this demanding but also beautiful sport.
Sounds good. And it's interesting, the earliest gymnastics wasn't quite what we picture today.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, ancient thinkers, people like Homer, Aristotle, Plato,
Right.
they wrote about physical training, sure,
Oh,
but it included things like swimming, racing, wrestling, even horse riding.
so much broader.
Yeah, much broader, often for like military training, so definitely not chalking up for the uneven bars back then.
Right, right. A different world. But okay, fast forward to the 19th century. Things start to change, especially in Bohemia and Germany.
Exactly. That's when Friedrich Ludwig Jahn comes along. People call him the father of gymnastics. And he really started to formalize it, invented actual equipment, The horizontal bar, the parallel bars, things still used today.
Wow, foundational stuff. And those early clubs started then too, the Turnverein.
Turnvereins and Sokals, yeah. Those early gymnastics clubs started popping up.
And that kind of formal structure, I guess it led to needing a governing body.
Pretty much. The FIG, the International Gymnastics Federation, was founded in 1881.
Okay.
Though originally it was just European, called the European Gymnastics Federation.
Makes sense.
But then, as it got more popular globally, they changed the name in 1921 when non-European countries joined in.
Got it. And the Olympics jumped on board fairly early.
For men, yes. Men's gymnastics was right there in the first modern games in 1896.
Wow.
Women took a bit longer. They joined the Olympics in 1928. And actually, the World Championships, which started back in 1903, were men only until 1934.
Interesting. So that kind of separation early on, did that lead to the different styles we see today? Mag and wag?
Absolutely. Men's artistic gymnastics and women's artistic gymnastics, they really evolved down different paths, different techniques, different apparatus, different focuses, really.
Yeah, you can definitely see the difference. Now, something I found really interesting. In the 70s, the gymnasts started getting younger.
Oh, yeah. The average age for Olympic gymnasts dropped quite a bit. You had these incredibly talented but really young athletes, sometimes called pixies.
Pixies. Okay. And that caused some concern.
It did. I mean, there were real worries about the pressure on these kids, their well-being.
Oh, understandable.
So the FEI stepped in. In 1997, they raised the minimum age for top international competitions to 16.
Ah, okay. And did that change things?
It really did. You started seeing older gymnasts making a comeback or staying in the sport longer.
So the average age went back up.
Significantly. By the 2020 Olympics, the average female gymnast was almost 22.
Wow.
And look at 2024, the U.S. team that won gold averaged 22.2. Italy's team was about 19.6. Brazil's was even higher, 25.2, so a definite shift.
That's a big change. It really shows how the sport adapts. And speaking of adaptation, didn't the vault change too?
It did, yeah. In 2004, they got rid of the old vaulting horse.
The pommel horse looking thing.
Kind of, yeah. They brought in the new vaulting table, sometimes called the tongue. It's wider, longer, considered safer.
Safer, right. Probably lets them do harder vaults too.
Arguably, yes. A more stable platform definitely helps when you're trying these incredibly complex skills. It shows how rules and equipment push the sport forward.
Okay, let's quickly talk about the apparatus themselves.
Yeah.
So vault and floor exercise.
Yeah.
Both men and women do those.
Correct. Vault is all about that power over the table. Floor is, the tumbling, the dance, the artistry on the mat.
You got to mention Simone Biles' skill on floor.
Mm-hmm.
The Biles, that double layout with a half twist.
Oh, absolutely breathtaking. Just incredible.
Okay, so for men only. What else is there?
Men have the pommel horse that takes insane strength and coordination, all that leg work, the flares.
That's impossible.
Pretty much. Then still rings, pure upper body strength and control. Parallel bars, which are about swinging, releasing, elegance.
And the horizontal bar, the high bar.
Yep, the high bar. That's all about might and flight. Big swings, releases, catches, grips, and chalk are absolutely essential there.
And for women, besides vault and floors.
They have the uneven bars, also need grips and chalk for that. Lots of dynamic swings, transitions between the bars.
And the balance beam?
The beam. Yeah, that one started lower to the ground, apparently, before they raised it.
No way.
Yep, and think about it. 70 to 90 seconds of leaps, turns, acrobatics on something just 10 centimeters wide.
It's mind-blowing. How high off the ground is it?
About 125 centimeters and
Wow.
5 meters long. intense focus.
And I heard there was some controversy about a specific turn on beam.
The wolf turn, yeah. It highlights how even specific skills can become points of debate about scoring and aesthetics in the community.
Okay, so how do all these skills and apparatus fit into a competition? What's the usual setup?
Well, for the big ones, like the Olympics or Worlds, you typically start with qualifications, sometimes called TQ, team quals.
Right.
Everyone competes as part of their team on all the apparatus. Those scores decide which teams make the team final.
Okay.
And they also decide which individual gymnasts qualify for the all-around final, competing on everything, and the event finals, which are finals for each separate piece of equipment.
So qualifications sort everyone out for the different medal chances.
Exactly. And a big change happened in 1989, the New Life rule.
New life. What's that?
It means the scores from qualifications don't carry over to the finals.
Oh, so everyone starts fresh.
Completely fresh, clean slate, makes the finals really exciting, you know. Anyone can win on the day.
Definitely adds drama. What about the routines themselves? Weren't there compulsory exercises at one point?
Yes, compulsories.
Yeah.
Where everyone did the exact same routine. They got rid of those after the '96 Olympics.
Was that controversial?
A bit, yeah. Some people felt they were essential for building good form and basics. Others thought they kind of stifled creativity, especially for newer countries.
I can see both sides.
And interestingly, a lot of countries still use compulsory routines at the lower developmental levels of the sport.
Right, speaking of levels, in the U.S., there are different stages, right?
Yeah, USA Gymnastics has like developmental levels, then compulsory levels 4 and 5, where they do set routines.
Okay.
Then optional levels 6 through 10, where they have more freedom in choreography, but still within rules. And then you hit elite.
Elite, that's the top tier.
That's the top. Junior elite is under 16. Senior elite is 16 and over. Olympic teams come from the senior elites.
And other countries have similar systems, maybe slightly different.
Yeah, the UK, Canada, Germany, they have their own structures, but the general idea of progressing through levels is pretty common.
And the FAA sets those age limits for seniors internationally. 16 for women, 18 for men.
That's right, in the year of competition. Which is why you have junior elites super talented, but not quite old enough for the senior stage yet.
And has the age thing caused issues, like people faking ages?
Unfortunately, yes. There have been some high-profile cases over the years. Age falsification. It really speaks to the immense pressure to compete at that top level.
Wow. Okay, let's switch gears to scoring. This has changed a lot too. Everyone remembers the perfect 10. How did that actually work?
Right, the old system, pre-2006. Basically, judges started with a maximum possible score, the start value, and deducted points for errors they saw.
But it wasn't always 10.0.
Really, that's a common misconception. Your routine had to have a certain amount of difficulty built in to even potentially get a 10. A fall, for instance, was a huge deduction, like half a point.
Okay.
So a really hard vault, maybe a double twisting Yurchenko, might have only had a start value of, say, 9.8 or 9.9 back then. You had to earn the potential for a 10.
So under that system, could two gymnasts get the same score even if one did much harder skills?
Exactly. And that was one of the big criticisms. It didn't always differentiate enough based on difficulty.
Which led to the new system.
Precisely. The open-ended scoring system came in after 2006. Now you get two scores added together.
Okay.
There's the D score for difficulty, and that's open-ended, no maximum. The harder your routine, the higher the potential D score.
Ah, okay.
And then there's the E score for execution. That includes artistry, too. That one is out of a maximum of 10. Judges deduct for errors in form, landings, artistry, things like that.
So D score plus E score equals a final score. That seems clearer for rewarding difficulty.
That's the idea, to give more credit for pushing the boundaries. But it's interesting, NCAA women's gymnastics in the U.S. still uses a 10.0 system.
Oh, really? How does that work?
It's a modified version. Routines generally start from a 9.5 base value. Gymnasts earn bonus points for specific difficult skills, like 0.1 for a D-rated skill, 0.2 for an E-rated skill, and for connecting skills together well.
So they build up towards a 10.0 start value.
Exactly. But even if their routine has, say, 0.7 in potential bonus, the start value is capped at 10.0. Then judges deduct from that.
Fascinating how different systems coexist.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the powerhouses. Who are the historically dominant countries in gymnastics?
Well, historically, you absolutely have to talk about the Soviet Union and then the post-Soviet republics. Hugely successful, especially at Worlds.
Right.
Romania had an incredible run too, a real golden era, though maybe less dominant since the mid-2000s.
Okay.
The United States, of course, has a very strong history, especially recently, but their first Olympic golds came back in '84. They've been a major force.
In China and Japan.
Perennial contenders, always strong. Japan produced Kohei Uchimura, who many consider the greatest male gymnast ever. And way back before World War II, Czechoslovakia was actually very dominant in men's gymnastics.
Huh. And more recently, any other countries emerging?
Oh, definitely. In the last couple of decades, we've seen nations like Great Britain, Brazil, Italy, Canada, Australia, France, the Netherlands, South Korea, all producing top-level gymnasts and winning medals.
What caused that shift?
Part of it is likely coaching talent moving around from the traditional powerhouses. The expertise spread out a bit, plus you see more individual stars emerging from countries without a long team tradition.
Makes the sport more global, more competitive.
Absolutely.
Now let's look at some numbers. Any surprising stats about who does gymnastics?
Well, if you look at world rankings from, say, 2019, top 5 women's teams were USA, Canada, Japan, Germany, Russia for men. USA, Russia, China, Great Britain, Ukraine. Shows that mix.
And college gymnastics in the U.S.? Any top programs?
Yeah, top NCAA women's programs in 2023 include places like Stanford, Florida, UCLA, North Carolina, Michigan. Big names.
And participation. Who's actually doing gymnastics day to day?
Okay, so in the U.S., based on 2023 data, way more females than males, like 3.5 times more. And age-wise, it's interesting. Higher female participation among the younger kids, 6 to 12, but relatively more males sticking with it or participating in older groups like 18-24, 25-34.
Huh. Any other demographic insights?
A big chunk, over half, are in 8th grade or younger. Shows how early many start serious training. Racially, it's majority Caucasian white, but with significant participation from African American, Black, Asian Pacific Islander, and Hispanic communities too.
Gives you a good picture.
Yeah.
Now, we have to talk about the tough side, the physical toll.
Yeah, it's unavoidable in a sport this demanding. Gymnastics has a high injury risk, especially spinal issues, joints.
How high?
Reports suggest over 86,000 gymnastics-related injuries a year in the U.S. alone.
That's a lot. What kind of injuries are common?
Things like elbow dislocations, wrist sprains, ACL tears in the knee, Achilles tendon injuries, foot and ankle problems. Lots of stress on the body.
And does it differ between men and women?
Generally, yes. Men tend to injure their upper bodies, more shoulders, wrists. Women see more lower body injuries, knees, ankles.
Makes sense given the different apparatus.
Also, ER visits are highest for the 6 to 15 age group. Younger kids often get lower arm fractures, older ones more ankle sprains.
Is surgery common?
One study found that while men had slightly more injuries overall, women's injuries required surgery much more often, almost 25% compared to about 9% for men.
Wow. And specific body parts.
That study showed hands and wrists were most common for men, feet and ankles for women. Even at college level, female gymnasts average about 2 injuries per 1,000 training hours.
It's intense. And tragically, there have been catastrophic injuries, too.
Yes. Very rare, thankfully, but devastating. Fatal injuries like Julissa Gomez's accident and paralyzing injuries like those suffered by Elena Mukina and Sanglan, they serve as stark reminders of the risks.
Beyond the physical, what about the mental health aspect?
Hugely important. The pressure is immense. Elite gymnasts often deal with extreme perfectionism, which can be linked to anxiety disorders, OCD.
Simone Biles really brought that to the forefront, didn't she?
Absolutely. Her speaking out about the twisties at the Tokyo Olympics and prioritizing her mental health, that was a massive moment. It highlighted the invisible struggles these athletes face.
And eating disorders are also a known issue.
Sadly, yes. Especially in women's artistic gymnastics, there's often intense pressure to maintain a very low body weight. The tragic case of Christy Henrik in the 90s really brought that issue into the public eye.
Which unfortunately leads us into the darker side, controversies and abuse.
It's a difficult but absolutely essential topic. There have been far too many reports over the years about abusive coaching.
Yeah.
And many brave gymnasts from different countries have spoken out about their experiences, which is incredibly difficult but so important.
And the Larry Nassar scandal in the U.S.
Yeah.
That was huge.
Devastating. It shook the entire sport. The scale of it, the number of survivors, the failures in the system that allowed it to happen, the closure of the Karali Ranch. It's had a profound impact.
And other instances.
Mm-hmm.
Like Carrie Strug vaulting on an injured ankle in '96.
Right. Which, at the time, was hailed as heroic, but in retrospect raises serious questions about athlete welfare. Dominique Moceanu also later spoke about competing through injuries without proper care.
And there have been coaching suspensions more recently, too.
Yes, like Maggie Haney's suspension for verbal and emotional abuse. It shows these issues are ongoing and require constant vigilance and reform.
It really underscores the need for a culture change, putting athlete well-being first, always.
Unquestionably, it has to be the priority.
Okay, let's shift perspective a bit. What's life actually like for a gymnast? What does that career path involve?
Well, it usually starts incredibly young. Peak performance often happens before 30, sometimes much earlier.
So what's the day-to-day?
Intense, consistent training on routines, maintaining peak fitness. If you're on a team, lots of coordination, huge focus on injury prevention and managing any issues that arise.
And funding.
Yes, seeking sponsorships can be crucial, especially if you're from a country without massive state funding for gymnastics.
What skills are absolutely key, beyond the obvious strength and flexibility?
Patience. Incredible patience for mastering skills. Meticulous techniques, some gymnasts even develop signature moves, like the Protonova vault. Gracefulness. And maybe above all, serious mental toughness. Resilience.
Where do they work mostly?
The gym, the training center, that's home base, but
Right.
then lots of travel for competitions, locally and internationally.
Does the career path look different depending on the country?
It can, yeah. In places like the US, China, Russia, Europe, there are often more established structures. In countries where gymnastics is still developing, like India, someone like Deepa Karmakar can have a huge impact and really inspire growth.
Right. And what about actually making a living?
It varies wildly. Prize money at big events exists, but it's not always huge sums. Sponsorships are really important for many top athletes. The financial reality can be tough.
So the roadmap is basically intense training from childhood, juggling school.
Pretty much, it's an incredibly demanding path, requiring huge dedication from the athlete and usually their family, too.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, it's clear gymnastics is this amazing mix. Incredible skill, artistry, a long history.
Definitely. But also, as we've discussed, significant challenges and risks.
What really strikes me is that constant tension,
Hmm.
pushing physical limits versus needing to protect the athletes.
Exactly. And all the changes we talked about, the age rules, the scoring, the equipment, they all reflect that ongoing effort to find the right balance. It's a sport that's constantly evolving in response to those pressures.
So thinking about those demands, the physical and mental toll, the controversies, what does the future hold? How can the sport better ensure the well-being and ethical treatment of its athletes?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? It's something worth thinking about, maybe by looking into individual gymnast stories, the advocacy work being done, and the reforms that are hopefully taking root.
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.